Hey everybody, Scout Crafty here again. It's Mishmash Monday. We got a bunch of stuff to get to, or so I'm hoping. First thing I want to get to is I have to do some lock maintenance, and so let's get to that real fast, and we'll start off today's episode. Now, before we start, I have to take out this knot to get the key out, and I could cut it, but you remember this? I made this a while ago. This is I made this out of another tool, and I made it more or less as a hand awl or punch, or more or less like a Marlin spike because it's polished. And if you've never used a Marlin spike before, what that basically is, it's a tool to take knots out. Now, when you have a knot like this that's, tight, this happens to be a figure-8 knot that's very tight on here. And what you do is, to use your Marlin spike, is you take the point here and you insert it in here like this and work it back and forth in your knot, And what you do is when you pass it through here, you'll see that by sliding it up on this in large diameter up here, you just wiggle it back and forth, and that'll loosen up the knot. And you can see here, we're loosening it up, we're getting in here a little bit, and then that'll allow you to take the knot out. You might have to insert it again in a different area, but basically that's how a Marlin spike works. You just move it up onto the larger diameter of the spike, and you can see it gives you enough room that you could take the knot out. These come in real handy if you have any kind of knot you have to take out. You really should try one. They're wonderful. Now, in case you don't know, I'm a kind of a big lock collector. If you think I got a lot of tools, I got 5 times as many locks. And when I first started off collecting locks, there was a whole different, I started collecting all different types of locks. And I was, I guess you first get into it, you want to collect some really interesting and unusual and large locks and high security, things like that. But what I settled on is master locks. Master locks are among my favorite lock. And I know a lot of you might be rolling your eyes right now because of the internet. Since the internet started up, so did lock picking. Now, lock collectors do a lot of lock picking because we sometimes get locks that don't have a key and we want to open it, whatever the case may be. But the truth of the matter is, and this is something everybody's got to live with, locks are only made to keep out honest people. That's it. They're not made to keep out thieves and crooks because it won't work. I mean, anybody that wants to get in is going to get in eventually. Now, when you see a master lock like this, you might think, well, it's easy to pick. Nobody is picking a lock. No thief is picking a lock. 95% of all locks that are broken into are breached, usually using some kind of physical force, like the universal key, what we call a bolt cutter. Or now with the portable angle, the cordless angle grinders, there is no lock. None of your high security locks can hold up to a cordless grinder. So, you're just trying to slow the guy down, or basically when you see something like this is something you might put on something outside to keep your wheelbarrow from getting stolen from the average idiot that comes into your backyard and he's going to walk away with it. They're not going to be picking locks. Trust me. So, that being said, the master lock is one of the most iconic locks that was ever invented. It was invented 100 years ago, and it was invented by a gentleman by the name of Harry Soref. Harry Soref was a Russian immigrant. He came here, and like I said, 1919 or so, he invented this laminated lock. And they patented it later on. He had 2 partners. They patented about 1924 and started Master Lock Company. Now, basically, I have 4 different types of master locks here. They make hundreds, and it's I'm telling you, you can only collect that one company, and you can have unbelievable amount of locks. But here we have your traditional laminated steel lock. This was very early. And you can see here the keys were what they call warded. And when they say this is a warded lock, and basically what that means is there's a bunch of obstructions in here. And the obstructions stop the key from turning. So when you cut the key to get around the obstructions, that's what opens the lock. And the obstructions are called wards, and that's why this is called a warded lock. The rest of these locks are a little bit unusual because you don't see them too much. This is a all brass type lock of their laminated type, and this here you can see was a US branded, but this is a number 4. Then we have a number 2. You can see the size difference. It's a number 2 here, number 2 lock. And then over here we have a nice iconic number 77. And you can see here it's got the lion head on there, which is Masters logo, and really beautiful, right? But we're going to clean these up. I'm going to show you how to clean. You should maintain your padlocks even if they're outside or whatever. But I'm going to show you. I've been through a lot of locks. This is the way I like to do it. Some people have different ways, but I'm telling you, I've been doing it a long time, and this works for me, so let's get right now. The funny thing is, I was one of Bosnian Bill's first subscribers years back, and the same with the lock-picking lawyer. I know their work, and I know what they do, but you got to understand something. Those guys, they can pick locks, blindfold in their sleep because they do that as a hobby. Now, the funny thing is, I had a guy at work down. He was just saying, "Oh, master locks, they're garbage." So I brought in one. I said, "Go ahead, pick it." In front of, there was like 7 of us sitting in a bus one day. I said, "Go ahead, pick it." So I gave him the tools. I even brought the picks in. He says, "Oh, sure." It took him 10 minutes. And he just gave up. He said, I can't do it. I don't know, because he was under pressure. Same thing with any thief that would come to your house. They're not going to sit there and take. Now, there are some bidding of the keys, depending on how the key is cut. Some locks are easier to pick than others, but as a thief, you're not going to go there and try and pick anybody's lock. The only people that are picking locks are people that might work in a warehouse overnight and they don't want the boss to know they were in a certain area, or another people that might pick locks, or somebody that might be friends of somebody that lost a key and they want to show off their skills. That's the only time I've had to pick a lock, is when somebody lost the key and they call me up. Otherwise, everybody's going to be cutting through them. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to clean up the outside of the lock. Now, you don't have to do this if you're just doing normal maintenance, but as a collector, I want these to look really nice. So we're going to take them to the wire brush and take off some of this grunge from the outside. Okay, here I'm using a kind of soft wire brush, and the reason is because I don't want to do any damage to the lock, and also it gives it a nice sheen and luster. And we do this before we start any kind of cleaning or lubrication of the inside. Okay, we're just getting ready to start on this iconic 77, again with the lion's head on here. Look at the back of the lock. You can see here, this is patina over the years. You can see what happens to this lock, and the same with the shackle here. So remember what this lock looks like, because this one here, there's a little dent we can't really do nothing about, but watch how nice this comes out with just a wire brush. Now, for outdoor locks, you could clear coat, or a coat of shellac will help protect the lock outside. Okay, here we have the locks all cleaned up exterior-wise, and you can see how beautiful they come out. That's why if you ever want to get into restoring old padlocks, you pick up one on eBay, an old rusty one, and you can just have a ball with these, and they come out so beautiful. Look at this. How nice are these locks, huh? And again, this is just with the wire brush, a little bit of buffing on the polishing wheel, and they are beautiful. Now we're going to do the important part. Remember, you have to do the keys too. Really important to do the keys. Speaking of which, look how beautiful the keys are, how they were made here. Look at this. Look at the beautiful stamping on these keys. That's the warded one. Here's a early master. You can see the logo on here. And of course, my favorite, you got the lion on here. Look at that. Just beautiful. They don't make keys like that anymore. No lock company does. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to lubricate them. And this is a step that, you would normally do all the time. Now, step number one is I like to take a shop vac and take the end here, and we're going to hold it up here to the bottom of the locks, just like this. You don't want to have it completely closed around the lock, because that won't allow any air. It's the air passing through and by the lock that will suck out anything inside the lock. So we're going to vacuum the whole lock inside. Any debris or dust or dirt will get sucked in there from inside the lock. Vacuum them out. That's first step. Next up, put down some plastic. This gets a little bit messy. And we're going to saturate the lock with a cleaner. This isn't a lubricant, it's a cleaner. Now, there are different ones here. There's Houdini. These are made for locks and stuff like that. But I'm telling you right now, I've used everything. You can use WD-40, but my favorite is the 50/50. Acetone and automatic transmission fluid. Saturate it. Let that really get in there. And I'll tell you what you're going to do. You're going to work it back and forth with the key and really saturate this lock and get out all of the, let it soak up and get all that old dirt and grime and everything out of there. And I'll show you how we get that out. Now, after a couple minutes of going back and forth, and again, don't be afraid to fill this up, to lock up with the, you can see here, you see that dirt coming out? It's coming out, and it will, you just bang it down, back and forth, bang it down, and just like when we do the pliers, we're going to get that out. Anywhere you see an opening in the side here, over here. A little bit of, you don't need a lot, but work it back and forth. You'll see it gets very smooth very quickly. Now, here's where it gets fun. Get yourself a 6-foot piece of twine, good, strong, heavy twine. At the end of the piece of twine, just tie a, this is called an overhand knot. Just make a overhand knot like that. Okay, make sure that it's solid, that it's not coming out. Pull on it. Now, you take the other end here, this end, the loop, and you're going to pass it inside the shackle and around the lock like this. So it creates... That's a lark's head, okay? We're going to do that, and just like that. Now, if you're doing this indoors and, you know, you don't want your shop to get messed up, you might want to take a piece of paper towel, wrap it around the lock like this, just like that, and put a rubber band around it. Because we're going to spin the lock now to get out all, using centrifugal force, we're going to spin this around, and all that excess cleaner is going to come out into the paper. Put your hand through, make sure you have it like this, and just spin it around. Don't take long. That'll get all the fluid out. Now, like I said, it doesn't take long, but you can see here, we'll take the rubber band off here. Okay, and you can see how much fluid. Okay, you see how that came out of there? Now, if you put a lot of, you really saturate it, you can keep doing it until you don't see any more fluid coming out. But that's how you get the cleaner out of the lock. Okay, after the spinning, I hit it with the vacuum one more time to make sure that there's absolutely nothing left in there. But that evaporates pretty quickly, like if you left it overnight or anything. But now we're going to lubricate it, okay? All we did there was clean it. Now we're going to lubricate it. To lubricate it, my favorite is Tri-Flow. This stuff is so good. I've tried a lot of stuff just for me, what I like, the way I like a lock to feel. Now, if you don't have the applicator, just get close like this. You can see, put it right in. And just give it a couple shots, just like that. Let it fall in. And again, the key is the key. You know, take the key, work it back and forth like this. Let it get in everything. And then up here, you can either give it a shot like this of Tri-Flow in that area there. But I also, one last thing I like to do on the top is, I'll show you, look how smooth that is. One last thing I like to do is take a Q-tip and put a little bit of grease on the end of a Q-tip and just touch right here with grease. And that really, really helps over time. But this lock is now done, ready to go back in service. Okay, these locks are back in service now, and you can see how nice they come out. It's just, oh, these are so beautiful, you know. So what I do now is, as a collector, for me personally, I take a 16-inch piece of cotton string, heavy-duty string. You can't really break this. And what I do is, I take that 16-inch piece of string and I make a figure 8 knot at the end here, put the key on, and I wrap it, and this is how I store my locks. Now, you can always, with that length of string, most locks, you can always operate the lock, you know, so there's plenty of string. That's the way I keep my locks. That's the way I store them, and I never lost the key, thank goodness, yet. But there we have the 4 master locks, and these are laminated, and this one here, the 77, you can see, remember what I told you, how that one comes out. Remember what that looked like before? Look at that now, huh? That's just beautiful locks. A lot of fun. I suggest you try doing it. Good way to lubricate them that never failed me. So in closing, I just want to point out that always remember, you can't compare a $4 lock to a $40 lock. They're not in the same category. And I think you should give a shot of trying this lubrication method out. I really think you'll enjoy it, and I think you'll like the way your lock feels. So thanks very much for tuning in. I hope you have a nice day. Take care now. Bye-bye. Put your hand in here like this and spin it around. Down!